video? Great. So I think we're all good to start. Just a very warm welcome to all the participants who joined us this afternoon. I know it's morning in some locations and it's near lunch in other locations. My name is Karen Bett. I work as a policy officer with the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. This is a joint event between GPSDD, the Center of Excellence for CRVS, and the UNECA in Addis. So, and this is, we call this an expert dialogue, where we're having a deeper conversation about the Tanzania case on notification systems. I believe most of you joined us last year in December for the webinar on the expert, the technical briefs on CRVS, strengthening CRVS across the continent. So this is the first of three expert dialogues. We have the second one with Ghana on continuity plans slotted for Thursday, and one for Namibia on emergency cash transfers slotted for Friday. Before we get into the details, I want to just give a little housekeeping. If you're new to Kudo, I want to take you through the platform. If you prefer to listen to this session, having both English and French translation, if you go to the bottom left of your screen, there's a white button which shows flow. And if you click on that, you can select your preferred language. So if you prefer French, you'll select French and you can listen to this dialogue in French. We have two parts. We've split this session into two parts. The first part will just do a small refresher and a small briefing of the Tanzania case, and then we'll respond to some of the questions that we received from you, which Lina will help to respond to. And then we'll move into part two, where we'll have a more in-depth conversation. For this part two, we welcome you to, request to speak, give in your expertise, comments verbally. So we'll allow people to speak on the microphone. If people prefer also to use chat, that is fine, and you can use the message button at the top left, top right button, top right side of your screen, the message, and you can type your question there. So to run this session, I'll do the first part, and I'll invite William from UNECA, and then afterwards I'll invite Lina, and then we'll do a small exchange of questions. Then I'll pass part two to Zoran, who will run the show, and finally Annette will close the session with some remarks. Right, so that's aside. I want to just give the floor now to William to give very few opening remarks, and just to let you know, participants, this is a no PowerPoint session, so you will not be seeing any screen sharing or any slides running. It's really a dialogue, it's really a conversation, and it's a space to ask questions, it's a space to share your experiences, and it's a space to exchange with one another. So without further ado, William, I give you the next 5 minutes to provide us with some opening remarks. Over to you, William.
Thank you so much, Karen. Let me welcome everybody, and let me say compliments for the new season 2021. We are starting a new year with the whole new hope, but unfortunately the COVID situation is not relenting. It's even getting worse in some countries. I know I came from Southern Africa a few days ago, and what's happening in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, it's really frightening. And we just hope that with the new vaccines, we can be able to curtail the catastrophic effects which are being felt in Africa. It seems now it has reversed almost what were our expectations of the low, rate. So we are going to continue our way with the new way of working, where we'll be engaging with each other remotely. And this is what we are doing. Pleasure for me to join you virtually today for the first dialogue. It's our first event of the year 2021. Thanks so much for the organizers, Karen and Osaya. We have worked tremendously well to actually make sure that we have this event on the scheduled day. I think, having activities in January is always a challenge. I have a number of activities on other things which we ended up having to move in to February. So really kudos for maintaining these dates. So on behalf of the ECA, the APAI CRVS Secretariat, and the Africa Core Group, I wish to thank the team that has organized these dialogues. So these dialogues give us the opportunity to learn from each other. And this is very fundamental. And as Karen said, you won't see any PowerPoint presentations. It's a dialogue. We actually, exchanging information. So these dialogues are based on documented good practices that have worked well on business continuity during the COVID-19 pandemic in a number of countries. These innovative approaches are mitigating the impact of COVID-19 on the performance and operations of the civil registration systems. In the first round of these dialogues, we are going to look at 3 countries, Tanzania, Ghana, and Namibia. So let me just look at a brief background of why this approach was taken. As you remember, during the course of the year when we were looking at the impact of COVID-19 on civil registration operations, we came up with a number of documents. We did a lot of research, and we had just over 20 webinars which were focused on the impact of COVID-19 on civil registration systems. And from that work, we managed to deduce about 5 recommendations. I'll go through them again because this will guide the work which we do in civil registration or CRVS for the next year or even 2 years. So what we will be concentrating on in 2021 will actually be shaped by these 5 recommendations. And as you know, 2021 is also the year which we will be having the 6th Conference of Ministers. So some of the work which we have started in January will find its way towards COM6, which we are still hoping that it will happen face-to-face in Maputo, Mozambique in October. So the first recommendation, which has been deduced from the work which has been done by ECA, our partners, Center of Excellency, Vital Strategies, and so forth. The first recommendation is civil registration systems and the vital statistics that are generated must be strengthened as core components of the response to COVID-19. Civil registration must be recognized as an essential service and service provision even during prolonged lockdowns because of their intrinsic value in upholding human rights, administrative uses, and production of vital statistics. So we know for sure that civil registration are important for the protection of human rights. They provide administrative and planning value, and they are used for production of vital statistics. So that should always remain in our minds as we do the work. So civil registration systems are a public good, and they deserve adequate funding from the national budgets. And this is one of the things which we will also be pushing during the course of 2021, that it is the responsibility of national governments. So in their fiscus, they should make sure that civil registrations systems are adequately funded. Then the second recommendation, which we should always have at the top of our agenda, is we need to harness the potential of technology, which is now widely available. The potential of mobile phones is increasing in Africa, and it should increase the operational efficiency of civil registration systems in Africa. So every household has a cell phone, at least, even the ones which are in rural areas. And so this is a medium which we can use to increase notifications and so forth. Digital technology with the extensive use of mobile phones in Africa is incomparable opportunity for driving the APAI CRVS program and the United Nations legal identity agenda for all on the continent. Then thirdly, digitalization of the processes from notification to certification will convert civil registration systems from slow, passive, and reactive systems that depend on in-person attendance to systems that are resilient, proactive, and agile. So this is one thing I think which I've even been reminded just for the 2 weeks in 2021 we have been working, that we really need civil registration systems to be proactive. They should actually move from being passive. They wait for informants to come to the civil registration offices and notify vital events. They should actually be prompting the informants to come and actually collect the process, their documents, rather than. So we are looking at changing the systems so that it is actually the civil registration system which prompts the informants. Fourthly, we need to build interoperable systems that are based on the life cycle approach, which accounts for everybody in a population from the time they are born to the time they exit through death. So technology provides us with that platform for interoperability and real-time data sharing. Then lastly, we recommend establishing closer links between civil registration authorities and the health sector by officially designated health agents to notify civil registrars of births and deaths, and thus reducing the number of in-person visits required and alleviating the burden on families having to travel to civil registration offices. Tanzania is a very good example of that, and if we remember the presentation which was made by Ms. Hudson last year, at the end of last year, this is one thing they've successfully done in Tanzania, and it is one of the reasons why we have actually, why we documented those good practices about Tanzania, and we also want to use that best practice in Tanzania as a model which other countries can adopt. So let me close by saying we have picked these three case studies from the three countries, but we have many more. I think we still have about 7 which are being worked on. So during the course of the year, we'll hear about these other 7, and we'll do the same. We'll present them. We'll actually have these dialogues where we look at each of the 7 cases and we see what we can learn from them. So let us have fruitful discussions. Really, we are taking these dialogues more as learning from each other. And this is the essence of South-to-South cooperation, learning from each other. So on that note, I want to thank everybody, and we hope that you will actually participate in this one and the forthcoming dialogues. And it is your opportunity to question, is your opportunity to understand, and it is your opportunity to see what you can actually learn from these countries and replicate in your countries with modification. So thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, William. We really appreciate, especially focusing on the recommendations and seeing that this is a build-up to COM6 sometime this year. So I think it really positions these expert dialogues as a space to learn and to build momentum for COM6. So thank you very much, William, for that. I'd want now to come to you, Lina. Lina is here on behalf of RITA, Tanzania, so representing the government of Tanzania. And I know we had Amy last year making the presentation. And so, Lina, we get a chance to hear from you today. I want to give you about 3 to 5 minutes just to give us a very short recap of the technical brief for the Tanzania case on notification system. This is for the benefit of participants who probably missed the webinar last year in December, but also to just refresh our minds on the case study. I know Holly will be pasting a link to the technical brief for Tanzania on the chat, and then we'll get into a few questions before we open the floor for a discussion. So over to you, Lina. You have about 3 to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Karen, and thank you, William, for the openings. Like the way William has pointed out, I was taking the notes. Tanzania, last year, the presentations were made by Ms. Hudson on how registration was still progressing amidst the COVID-19. And she presented on the decentralization board, where during the COVID-19, we had plans to go to another region, as we have decentralized in, it was 16 countries, 16 regions at the time. But then during the COVID-19, we were supposed to go to the 17th one. And amidst the COVID, we decided just to go ahead with it, but we customized so that we observe the precautions as were stipulated by the people from the health. So decentralization was done, but there is one thing that I wanted to point it out. Tanzania has, when you talk of notification, this will be we have like 2 systems. We're on the decentralized mode, we don't have notification. But with the centralized mode, that's when we have notification. So with the decentralized system, when we say we have decentralized in 18 regions, what we mean is that once a mother or a father comes in, or a mother gives birth to a child at the health facility, they live with a birth certificate. They don't live with a notification. And the personnel at the health facility will enter the data using a mobile phone. I've seen that emphasis has been put on digitization and use of mobile phones. So we know at least every household own a phone. So phones are given to health facilities so that they can capture the data. So we get the data on a real-time basis. So with a centralized mode, that's where you have the notification, because this is like what William has pointed out, like CRVS waits upon the notifiers to come in and collect the certificate. But with the decentralized, you move to the people so that they can access the service without having to come to you when need arises. So in Tanzania, we had both systems. Of course, the centralized one is almost phasing off. So during the presentation made by Amy, that's what she was stressing about, that we have decentralized in 18 regions, and amidst the COVID, we were going to one region, which was called Ruvuma. And during the process of registration, what we do is we register newborn and backlog. But during the COVID, we had to do away with the backlog. This is 5 to 17. We said, let's concentrate on the newborns, those who are born at the health facilities. And as you see now, the health facilities, by embedding civil registration in the health facilities, you allow continuity because health facilities are an essential service. William has clearly pointed out that once you declare civil registration as an essential, you ensure its continuity. So we have embedded with the decentralized mode, we have embedded registration at the health facility for hospital-based births, and for community, they are done at the ward. These wards are within their locality. So it is within where the premises where a person lives, that's when they can register if it is a community-based birth. But then most of the children, at least 99%, they go for immunization. So when they come for immunization, they can still be registered at the time. So the process is like that. We have the centralized and decentralized, but centralized is almost phasing off. And we had given out how the pillars that have assisted us in ensuring the continuity. We have one step, one visit process, like the one I've mentioned on the decentralized, that once a person comes in, a baby is delivered at the health facility, they're given a certificate right up front. And then we have a fee waiver. We have waived fee for the children below 5 and the newborn. They're given free of charge. So at least we get a lot of people coming in for registration, because fee or cost associated with registration is seen as an hindrance. We have also used mobile phone. This is innovation. So we capture data by using mobile phone. Once the designated person, who is a nurse, register a child, after registering, because maybe they become like 25 or so, at the end of the day, they take the registers and they start capturing the data. So we get a real-time data because it is captured right there and then. And we have shown during the presentation, it was shown what strategies have been used to ensure continuity, that is embedding registration in health facilities. And we also developed an online application for all age groups now. The online application allows the person, wherever they are to make application and they get a certificate at a place which is closer to them. So for instance, if somebody is born in a region not where he is now, they just make application online, they attach all the documents that are needed, and then they say where they're going to pick up the certificate. So this has really assisted in continuity of the registration process. So that is all about, it's a bit of a recap about what was discussed initially. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much, Lena, for that brief recap. I think it has been helpful just to refresh participants on the case study and also, have a little more info. I have just 4 questions for you, Lena, and I'd want to ask you these questions before we open the floor and move into part 2. And some of those, you've responded to some of those questions, but I think I just want to dig deeper into this Tanzania system. And it's unique. It's very unique in Africa, and I know our representatives who are on this call will find it also unique. I think I'm keen to learn from you, Lina, in terms of why did you do this? How does the system work in rural settings, especially where there's no access to internet? And then I also want to just know how you achieve strong cooperation with other institutions. And lastly, and I'm sure people want to learn, like, what are some of the challenges you're facing? What are some of the barriers and how you've overcome that?
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. With the online platform, like I said, an applicant just logs in using a mobile phone or computer, and then they make application. They attach the documents that are needed. If it's a notification, if it's a letter from the person from their locality who will prove that the person was really born where they say they were born. And then it doesn't matter, because all this, whatever we are saying, when we say decentralization, when we say centralized, it is all over. Rural setup, urban setup, they all work the same, because even in rural area, people own phones, so they can upload, they can do whatever they want to do. So it doesn't matter which location they are, applications are made, and once an applicant has filled and add the attachment of where they have been born, the application is scrutinized. Now this is the back office, where it can be done either at RITA headquarters, or it can be done whichever district or whichever place of birth that the person says they were born. Then the scrutiny will be done there. But then, as the person will say, the pickup point for the application. So they will go with the necessary documents, because you are required to keep the documents apart from the online application, but the documents which you have will need to be put in the register. So when in case of any changes that occur, or in case any person wants to come and scrutinize on whether the person who has filled the form, it was rightful or what, they can come and collect and check on the data. Of course, it's not open to anybody, but just for continuity, the hard copies are brought in, and after looking at them, then the certificate is printed at the place where the person has said they are going to pick up the certificate. And the challenges are there, because sometimes a person may attach documents which cannot be easily readable, or they can during maybe network connectivity. So it may not be for everybody else, but those are just small challenges which can be cured by more awareness and advocacy. So we're trying to put more emphasis on advocacy so that people can know and subscribe to the online, rather than having a one-to-one, because one-to-one, when a person comes in, maybe they may be required to come multiple times. So in order to reduce the process of coming multiple times, hence the use of online. But then for those newborns, they have the system already in place, which is the decentralized, where they're given certificate at the place where they're born.
Thank you, Lina. I have a follow-up question, and I think you've touched on this in regards to advocacy. This question came from one of the participants. What are some of your strategies in terms of advocacy and just building that political commitment to prioritize CRVS systems? And also, I know you revised the law in 2019 to accommodate the new system. Please tell us, what was the process? What were some of the lessons you learned in terms of revising the law as a way of also building advocacy for CRVS?
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. In the process, I think maybe most of the countries, they went through this, that we were all thinking maybe we need to overhaul the entire legislation and come up with a new law. But we tried that route, and then we saw it was getting us to nowhere. So what we did was advocacy. First, you start by making people understand what actually you want to achieve. Once the community and the people with authority understands exactly what you want to do, the support will be there. So what we did sensitization, because normally when we go for decentralized system in a particular region, we call in people of all cadre. Like we start with the regional commissioner, who is the head of a particular region, and all the people who are supporting him or her. We call in them in the meeting. We tell them about what registration really means, what we are actually going to do in that particular region, how it is going to benefit them. Once they have understood, then it becomes easier for them to support and actually ensuring sustainability of that system. So with the law, what we did, we had to do the same thing by sensitizing the parliamentary committee that deals with civil registration. And then when they understood, they were also our speakers to others who did not understand. And then what we just took some few sections from our law, the way it is. We just made some changes to them. Like, for instance, the law was saying that registration was done at district level. Now we want to go to take it a step further to the council level, where there are health facilities and ward offices. So it's just one section that you need to add. So we just made a miscellaneous amendment that just adding a provision that says, although we have the district, but now we want also to move a step further, and added a miscellaneous provision there that allowed for us to function the way we wanted to. So I would urge other African countries to do the same. You don't need to overhaul the entire legislation, because there may be some provisions which you are still in need of them. So just go for small amendments and look at your own environment and see what works better for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lina. I have two more questions. I promise they're going to be really short, and I see questions are coming through from participants, so I want to give them a chance to ask their question and for their questions to be responded to. I want to just touch on a question that came on the role of health facilities. And, I'd like you to just elaborate, how do you develop links with health facilities when it comes to notification systems, including also other institutions? And also, how do you go about registering births that are done outside the health facility?
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. I've explained about the two systems. There is a centralized and decentralized. What we had before the decentralized, we had a centralized mode. This centralized system was used in health facilities. It was actually, Rita was providing registers to the health facilities, so that whatever birth or whatever death that occurs at their facility, they register it, give somebody a notification, and that person comes to any district offices, they go in, and then they get the certificate. Now we used, during the decentralized mode, the system, before the enactment of the law, what we did, we had a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Health, so that they allowed their personnel who were giving notifications. Now, instead of giving notification, now you will register a child and give them a birth certificate. So with a decentralized system, what we are giving, we are not giving a notification anymore. What we are giving is a certificate. So once a child comes in, once a mother comes in and they deliver the baby at the health facility, the nurse will just register that child and give them a birth certificate. But in the regions, because we have decentralized in 18 regions now, we have 8 regions remaining. So in these 8 regions, they still use the notification. We provide the health facility with the notification, and then they give them, and then they come to the district offices to be registered. So the link was through a memorandum of understanding. After the changes of the law, now it is the law that wants them to do the registration or to do the notification in case decentralized is not there. There's one more question you ask on how we establish. That's how we establish that we use memorandum of understanding and we use the law to ensure that they do registration. I wonder if I have missed one.
No, I think you've covered everything, and I know when we get to part 2, we'll also delve deeper into some of these issues. I know questions have come through in terms of just maintaining the accuracy of the data and also the relationship with the justice system when it comes to issuing IDs. One last question, and I know this is a pertinent issue across the continent when it comes to different countries and on death registration. I think I'm keen to hear from you, from your experience in Tanzania, Lina, what could be done to improve death registration from your experience, and what other countries can learn?
Okay, thank you, Karen. With death registration, we have managed to, I'll say, pilot in 2 regions, and people are not keen to register deaths. They don't see the reason as to why, but as a country, it is very important because you need that statistics for a lot of interventions that may be needed, because you might need to know what kills people, or maybe it may be accidents, what may be certain disease, and you need to make some interventions. What we did the same as what we have done in birth registration by decentralizing. But then with death, we have added a component on the community-based death, where we have added a notification. So for health facilities, for those deaths that the family members will register, the nurse at the health facility will register and give them the certificate. We have added one more thing, the MCCOD form, which is our link now with the Ministry of Health. We ensure that every health facility has an MCCOD form, and the doctors and those people who are there are trained on how to fill them. This MCCOD form, we have ensured that we get 3 copies. One copy will be attached to the register that comes to RITA, another one will remain at the health facility, and another one will go to the district for their own planning purposes. So with the notification for those at the ward level, we know that some in rural setup, death occurs at the community, and you need to register them. So here, you need to have people like frontliner informants. William mentioned something about informants. So we have informants at the ward who can be the religious leaders, because the religious leaders, they attend these various services and all that. So we sensitize them on the importance of ensuring that these people, during the officiating, they inform them that you need to register this particular death. So that religious leader can act as a notifier. So their notification have been put up to the level of mtaa. Mtaa is street. So in a particular street, there will be a 10-cell leader who will have the notification, who will notify now the ward of how many deaths that have occurred in a particular ward. And the ward will now inform the district. So that's how we come to know about a particular death in a particular locality. So it is important that we decentralize, But then there are certain things that we need to accommodate, like the issue of notification in terms of the decentralization of death and the use of MCCOD form so that you were informed of what has caused that particular death.
Thank you so much, Lina. I think we could have multiple expert dialogues around these issues, but I don't want to be selfish. I want to allow other participants and other people to ask their questions. So right now we'll move into part 2, and I'll invite my colleague Zoran to run the second part. As I mentioned, what we'll do in part 2 is we'll allow participants to ask their questions. And the way to ask is you can request to join the floor or request to be allowed to speak. Once you do that, my colleague Holly will let you speak, and then we'll sequence. So please let us know if you'd like to ask your question, and then you can directly ask Lina or give comments. But without further ado, I think this marks the end of part 1 and smoothly moves into part 2. Over to you, Zoran. Thank you, Lina.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you for your kind introduction. I would like to say good afternoon to all the participants of this webinar. It is my pleasure to moderate this second part of the webinar, which is going to focus on the key takeaways and learnings from the brief that we developed for Tanzania. And as Karen was mentioning, this is obviously an excellent opportunity for all present during this webinar to ask some further questions on the system in Tanzania. But I would like to remind that, in fact, the whole idea about this second part of this webinar is, in fact, to generate a dialogue among distinguished experts, international experts on civil registration and vital statistics, as well as a range of national practitioners, executives in the field of civil registration and vital statistics that could provide valuable insight and feedback on their own national practices, international practices, all with the goal to generate further learning within this distinguished expert group that is joining this webinar today. So for the upcoming discussion, other than further questions that you might ask on the system in Tanzania, I would rather suggest that we take the opportunity to hear the details of the way the civil registration and vital statistics system in Tanzania operates as a pretext for a more broader discussion on major themes that we could see in that brief and that we could hear from the presentation. These briefs, these general themes are obviously the issue of decentralization of civil registration vital statistics systems that goes along digitization. Is something that has been a general theme of a range of APAI CRVS comprehensive assessments. Here we had the chance in the Tanzania brief to see how this is functioning in Tanzania's context. And we could also touch upon the role of health facilities. And when I say decentralization, digitization, the role of health facilities, I'm not necessarily thinking only about the situation in Tanzania. We've heard what the situation in Tanzania is for the time being, but we could possibly reflect on experiences of other countries, because I see that distinguished representatives from civil registration authorities of some other countries in the region. And we could as well explore global experiences in this regard, and possibly address, highlight, and discuss challenges that arise with regards to decentralization of civil registration and vital statistics systems. That would be one theme that we will discuss, and obviously as a moderator of these discussions, I will be calling on as participants request to take the floor and to intervene. And obviously, I will kindly encourage a dialogue, reflection on the national experiences, or raising the issues with regards to possible challenges that then, as a group of such proportions that rarely has opportunity to come together in such a distinguished group to discuss these issues, that we explore this hour and a half that we have ahead of us to further highlight certain issues and possibly provide further insight into how we could address some of these issues. So the second theme that we could discuss, and where Tanzania gives us excellent pretext, I think that can be further debated and discussed and possibly further propagated across the continent, is this a unique one-step process of registration, merging notification and certification as part of one visit. I think we can discuss this extensively and hear experiences from some other countries, whether they have entertained this idea, and if they have entertained this idea, what they think the challenges that they've been facing and how they could be overcome, and what sort of major advantages we see from this approach. And finally, as the most unique and groundbreaking on African continent, is the last example that we heard from Tanzania, and that is allowing population to apply for registration of vital events online. We've heard quite at a great level of detail how it operates in Tanzania, but I think this is a point that we can discuss quite a bit and at greater level of detail. So I would like to move on, now that I've presented what are going to be the major three themes, into the first theme of this discussion, and that is decentralization, digitization, as a way of improving CRVS system. Interestingly, COVID-19 crisis gives us an excellent pretext to further discuss this policy, because as the brief highlights, it seems that the centralized system is more resilient to the situation of health crisis, especially when it comes to health facilities, because regardless of the government's response in the way how a CRVS system should function, health facilities are functioning uninterrupted with additional challenges because of COVID-19, but nevertheless, children are still being born, and because through decentralized system, we have notification or registration centers. In Tanzania case, in health facilities, registrations are nevertheless taking place. Please feel free to provide your own feedback and to offer a suggestion to speak. But for the beginning, now that I know that William will have to leave us shortly due to some other commitments, if William is still with us, I would like to kindly offer the floor for some general reflections on decentralization, digitization, and the successes of this approach, especially in the context of COVID-19 crisis. I would like to ask William, if you are with us, please to take the floor, if possible.
Okay, thank you so much, Zoran. I think we have heard from Tanzania in terms of the decentralization and how they have actually used technology, especially now that mobile phones are available, at community levels and so forth. So the major emphasis now is actually on digitization, which is actually innovation, how we can innovate and use innovation to make sure that civil registration systems are, proactive, and they move from being passive to proactive, and they become agile. And also this issue of having one-step, process or one-stop process where notification, verification, and certification are all done, in one multiple way. Let me just also say, not really based on the Tanzanian example, but even in countries which are still at their infancy in terms of modernizing their systems, the advantage really of using technology is not the immediacy of which the credentials or the documents can be obtained, but that the event has been notified and it's sitting somewhere where, when it is required, then it can actually prompt both the supply side and the demand side to do an action. And that action for the demand side is actually to collect the credential which they can use. If it is a birth certificate, if it is a death certificate, they can collect it. And this is one of the things I think which we should really base technology on, that it will be able to give us, or to keep these records alive, which is one thing we have actually been failing to do, especially in crisis, and even not in crisis. And there's one thing which I also mentioned a few days ago in the interview which I had, that all these events are known and they are somewhere. For example, if the events are happening in hospitals, they are known to the health facilities. Or if they are happening in communities, we know for sure in most African countries, before a burial is performed, we actually inform our local leader, the village head and something. So this information is resident somewhere, but it's not finding its way to civil registration offices. And this is, I think, where we need to look at how we can take advantage of the different places where this information is, make it interoperable with the civil registration offices, so that the civil registration offices can access this information. For example, accidents. This information is recorded at police stations, but we have never sort of proactively engaged the police so that we can actually recoup or record some of the information which they have on natural deaths. So one thing which I really want us to think, as we go, and I think Tanzania has gone quite some steps ahead, or some, with this, is actually, where is the information on vital statistics resident? For example, if births are occurring in communities, they are being attended by traditional birth attendants. How can we use the information or this traditional birth attendants to just make sure the notification is done? Deaths before burials are done, this information is with the local leaders and those which are occurring in health facilities. So let's think very hard about how we can take these bits and pieces of information which are resident in very different places, and how we can bring them into the civil registration system. So I'll actually leave everybody with that in mind. We'll come back to each country and try to work out in terms of improving their systems by actually identifying where are your information resident. if we identify those, how can we link those to the civil registration system? And lastly, I think the issue which we'll also be emphasizing on during the course of the year and possibly next year is for to use civil registration systems to start building national population registers. So we'll have a dedicated webinar at a certain point on national population registers, so that at least we start looking at how we can implement that within Africa. We have our colleagues in the Asia and the Pacific who have significantly moved in this direction, and we will also, look at sharing information with them. So with those, I think let's continue to learn from Tanzania, I think, on the issues and how their performance and activities are related to the 5 recommendations, which I actually highlighted earlier, that APAI CRVS program has identified those 5. So let's see how we can operationalize them in our countries, and we can use Tanzania as an example. Thank you, Zoran. Over to you. I will skip on to another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, William, very much for this detailed feedback and useful suggestions. I'm sure there might be quite a few comments from experts around this virtual table on these particular notes from your end that we could discuss towards the end of this meeting. But I'm also seeing that there are questions coming up from the audience that are sort of pointing to the experience of Tanzania, but to a lot of extent raise doubts with regards to challenges that the national authorities are facing when designing or redesigning registration business processes. For instance, we have a comment from Samuel who is saying that we might face challenges to ensure that documents that are applicants providing in the course of registration or when the notifications are taken might not be fully legally acceptable, and therefore we might ask ourselves how we can be sure that the name of the person claiming to be a father of the child in the process of registration is indeed a father of the child. Do we have sufficient legal safeguards in the process of collecting information, notification information, that we can mitigate this concern? Perhaps we could hear from feedback from Tanzania in terms of how they address this issue, but I would also like to kindly invite Samuel, if Samuel could further highlight if why this is a particular challenge and why we have to take due notice about this. So I would like to ask Samuel if you could clarify why do you think this is a particular challenging issue and why it needs to be. If Samuel is not available to speak right now, maybe I could turn over to Lena. If Lena could provide some feedback on the situation in Tanzania with regards to mitigating these concerns.
Okay, thank you very much, Zoran. With regard to the challenges that they are faced by what Samuel has posed, well, you know, a mother is the primary notifier of anything that happens to the child. So what is normally done for the late registration now, because if you are talking about the events that's why we are advocating that we should have a decentralized system where it is one stop, one visit. So once a person has been registered during infancy, bringing in false information may not be the case then. But when you have late registration, that's when you can have a lot of false information. So like what we do in Tanzania, because we have experienced it when a mother has registered a child, they then come in and then they say this is not the father of the child, the father of the child is so and so. What we require here is for both parents, whoever they say who was registered and the one who wants to be replaced by that one, they have to come and then they are being interrogated. They swear affidavits that one says I am not the father and the other one says I am the father, because another way of doing it is by using DNA. You ask them to bring in DNA report that will say who exactly the father is. So you can't really have a tight system of saying that this is the information that you are getting from the mother is the information. There can be some others who may lie about it. That's why we have it in our law that if you are providing an information which is false, then the registrar can just strip out the entry, and you will have to go through a certain process so that you can be registered. So that's how we overcome such challenges. We ensure that once a person gives in information, they are sure about them, and then if they want to make any changes, then there's a certain process that they have to go through in order for the changes to be effective.
Thank you very much. That's a very, very detailed and comprehensive response. Obviously, quite a few bases are being covered and all eventualities are being duly taken into account. I'm learning in the process as I'm managing through this online realm that if you would wish to say something on a particular topic, you have to request to speak. I believe there is a button further down in the right, and then that will notify colleagues that there is a request for intervention and feedback on a particular topic. Another interesting aspect of a system in Tanzania, which I believe might be available in many other countries, and we could hear further on that, and that is that there can be a late registration, including in health facilities, and I know that for a fact that in Tanzania this is the case, and this is one of the reasons, one of the ways how the backlog of unregistered births is being cleared out over the past couple of years. Amadou, our colleague, has raised a question that this is a very, very relevant point for the expert community to further discuss. If Amadou would like to further elaborate on the importance of this aspect, please kindly request to speak. We would love to hear from you on that topic. But I do see that Samuel, who originally posed this question, is now up on the screen, which means that he would be available to provide feedback. I would kindly ask Samuel if you would like to further clarify why these legal preconditions for establishing fatherhood and family relationship at the point of notification of birth is so crucial. Samuel, would you like to take the floor? No, I don't have that information on the screen anymore. So next, I would like to turn up for a general comment from a distinguished colleague, Jakub, who would like to also provide more targeted feedback in the context of decentralization and use of digital services. So Jakub, if you would be available to request to speak so that we can hear from you as well, that would be excellent. And my suggestion as a moderator would be if I could ask my dear colleague Bhaskar Mirsha from UNICEF in Tanzania, who is today with us and has been carrying the torch for the success of the program in Tanzania, if he would be available to share some insights on how the decentralization and use of mobile notifications for ITA has been instrumental in Tanzania for making it successful exercise on clearing backlogs of unregistered birth. And I think also it would be useful if we could hear from a distinguished colleague, Esperanza from Mozambique, on the experiences of decentralization of civil registration and vital statistics in Mozambique and the lessons learned from that exercise. So these are some of the issues that we could discuss further on amongst ourselves. Any offer for intervention? Until we get the requests to speak, I would like to turn back to Lisa again and ask a sort of political and also conceptualizing question of reforms of civil registration system in Tanzania, and that is what prompted Tanzanian authorities to entertain the idea originally to introduce a decentralized model. What are the main advantages that have been recognized from having this decentralized model?
Okay, thank you very much, Zoran. We have experienced a lot of success and advantage of using the decentralized mode. Like I said, with the decentralization, first you're setting up a system. So you are ensuring that whatever child is born, as of the time that the system is put in that particular region, there are no more backlogs that are being created. So we have done away with the backlog of below 5. Of course, we have other initiatives that we are doing for clearing of backlog for 5 to 17, where we follow them in school. This I have not mentioned, but I'll mention it. So we have had an advantage of clearing of the backlog. We have an advantage both at different levels. Because a particular birth will be registered at a particular health facility. The health facility, they make up a ward. And then the ward, they make up a council. And then the council, they make up a district. So at all these layers, everybody is informed. For instance, if you want to send immunization for health people, they know the number of children. For schools, if you want to plan for children who are going to school, the particular council can know how many children are up for going to school at that particular time. If they need classroom or desks, so they can make informed decisions. Also, we have linked the birth certificate with other services. This has prompted people to come in for a birth certificate. For instance, if you want to have health insurance, you need to show a birth certificate. That way, a lot of parents, they come in and subscribe for the service. They ensure that the child, once born, they get a certificate. Also, we are linking with we have linked with the national ID. So both ends, that the birth, so that they can provide an ID once the child reaches 18, and for death, so that they can remove them from the system. So by having this decentralized system, you ensure that both at political, social, everybody can get something out of it in terms of statistics, in terms of planning, and in terms of political development. I will also wish to touch a little bit about the 5 to 17. This is clearing of a backlog. It's about the late registration. Because you know now, once you have put in a system, you want to ensure that it doesn't replicate. So in those places where the system is already in place, we are also going to schools and urge we provide forms to the teachers who will in turn provide them to the pupils. So the pupils will fill the forms, send them to their parents so that they can have the required documents. And then the same system, they bring it to the teacher brings it to the district. So actually what William was saying about being proactive and not just waiting for people to come to you. So we have tried through the centralized system and through this 5 to 17 to ensure that we move from staying at the back but going front and ensure that registration is done. Thank you very much, Zoran.
Thank you, Lina. Indeed, we learned quite a bit from this feedback. Obviously, Tanzania is providing a lot of useful and good practices that we can all learn from. Next, I have our colleague Nasansha, who I would like to kindly invite to provide us a feedback, and then followed by Annette. At the same time, I encourage all others to request to speak if you would like to provide particular feedback or share something that would be interesting for this group. So, Nasansha, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Zoran. Please confirm if you can hear me.
I can hear you very well. I believe we are.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. A big thank you to Lina for the detailed information on how the system is working in Tanzania. I just wanted to find out, noting that Tanzania was earmarked as one of the champion countries for the No Name campaign, are there any mechanisms that they are putting in place, or are there any ways that they can support other countries within the region, especially the fact that they've placed a great ID system already? So for countries around the Eastern African region, are there any mechanisms for support to them? Thank you. Over to you, Zoran.
Thank you very much. This is an excellent question. I think we are providing tiny bit of platform for exchange of good practices. For the time being, this is quite a lot, given that we are all constrained by COVID-19, and in many ways, this is a unique platform. But indeed, I recognize through this question that there is a greater need and appetite for more discussion on the exchange of good platforms, good practices. Obviously, Tanzania is a source of many of such good practices, and therefore, Lina, I would like to ask, has there been any request for bilateral cooperation, or how do you see possible venues for further discussions among peers, among practitioners from countries in the region and wider in Africa on these important questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Sanshia, for the question and for the. I take it as advice. We did have people from NIRA in Uganda who came to learn from us. So we are always open to allow others, if they want to come and learn from our system. We are ready, and we also, like the way we are participating in these dialogues, I think this is also a platform where we are sharing our whatever we can share with the rest of us. So we are using both platforms. We allow people to come in and learn from us, and we also participate in different forums and share our experience for others to learn from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With the hopes, as this COVID situation clears out, we will have opportunities to get together and discuss pertaining issues. I'm happy to see that we have a request for intervention from our colleague David. Please, for the rest of the audience, kindly introduce yourself briefly, 2 sentences, and then we can proceed with the intervention. Go ahead, David.
Thank you very much, Zoran and Tanzania. I'm David, working for National Economic Commission for Africa, ECA, in Addis Ababa. So my intervention is about, we have this principle of leaving no one behind. And as we made effort, of course, to improve our system, we need to ensure no one is left behind. And as we all know, we have this category of people who live actually in hard-to-reach area, or themselves they live, they hide themselves for the system to know whether they exist. So if we don't have an active system, so those people will be left out. So we have refugees, for example, people living in the border area, or those stateless people. So we have, I think we have got different experiences from account to how they cope with this category of people. But for Tanzania, I know, depending on, for example, the nationality regime existing in the country, sometimes nationality acquisition can be a barrier where, some system may say, if we register the birth, this person will be, in terms of getting the nationality, it can be some sort of difficult. So how Tanzania is coping with that? And the other reflections about traditional or customary marriage. We have different events in our society, and sometimes depending on our laws, these tend to be illegal events. And yes, they are reproduced in our society. And if we don't capture them, we are missing important aspect of decision-making process. So how do we cope with the tradition, this sort of marriages which are not illegal, depending on the law? And I know there was a recommendation, for example, in the last conference of ministers in Zanzibar, in Zambia, that this event, a country should be find out how to get them recorded into their system. So how do we, as countries, cope with all of this aspect of events that are occurring in our society? Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, David, very much. Obviously, this question has been posed to Lina, but I think it can be posed to everybody around this virtual table, because in daily experience with reforming or thinking of reforming of the national CRVS system or international level, we come to the point that in general, the system that we are having in plan looks very good. Yet there are a number of very peculiar cases that we need to address. So how these cases are being addressed in different countries, this would be an excellent opportunity for everybody to provide sort of their own experience. But for the time being, I would just kindly ask Lina yet again to come in with some reflections in Tanzania's case.
Thank you very much, Mr. David, for the question and insights. In Tanzania, our law allows us to register every event that occurs in our country. It doesn't look at what region or if it's the national of Tanzania or not. So we register the event that occurs in our country. And even our birth certificate has a disclaimer that birth certificate is not a proof of nationality, because we have other organs that will deal with that. So we provide a birth certificate to birth or death certificate to whoever that is born here. And David has mentioned something on refugees, and I would like to commend a good job that was done by our government, where we managed to register children who were born at a refugee camp in Kigoma. You know, Kigoma is border.
I think we might have lost Lina until
Burundi and Congo. So there were some refugees. There still are some refugees there. Hello, am I still there?
Yes, Lina, we can hear you again. There was a brief cut of about 3 seconds.
Okay, I was saying about what we did in Kigoma, where we managed to register refugee children, those who were born in Tanzania. And there is also some initiatives by the government to ensure that registration is done at these camps. But then you need to know who was born here and who was not born here. So that's a bit of an exercise that needs a bit to be careful. But as I said, in Tanzania, the law allows to register. It's the event that we are registering. So we are not looking at who is a national or not a national. And we have started registration in Kigoma, in a particular refugee camp, where we have given a birth certificate to children who were born in Tanzania from that. And we are still continuing with that process. I think that's about it.
Thank you very much. This sort of poses a very interesting question that we could further discuss, and that is a registration of birth an opportunity to register the event of birth, or we are also using birth registration to solve or help address many other problems, such as issues in the country, administrative issues, or issue of nationality. Is the point of registration of birth the point to address the issue of nationality? Is that the point address the issue of fatherhood? Does it have to be on that one particular occasion, or can it be left for later? I think, Lina, your suggestion seemed to imply, and in Tanzania, that this human rights-based approach, and that we have to protect the interest of children, making sure that their birth is registered, takes over the priority. And then next we discuss how to address other legal issues which might pop up, not necessarily right away, but in some percentages of cases, the disputed fatherhood or issue of nationality of that child altogether. Not necessarily at the point where you need to call that the event has happened, but later on through due legal procedure. So with that, I move on to our next distinguished participants who has kindly requested to speak and share insights on this theme. I kindly ask Jakub for a brief introduction and to take the floor.
Thank you, Zoran. I'm Jakub Zoldi, international consultant on CRVS, and I'm also active in APAI CRVS. I have one comment and one question. The comment is, many countries have worked in, the major challenge is to have a common systems thinking. CRVS is basically a government issue, a government affair. Key players are the civil registration agencies, statistics, and health. And in many places, Ministry of Health is missing. And I'm so glad to hear that the health facilities in Tanzania are really up to the task, which means Ministry of Health is on board. And I hope they are also on board when it comes to deaths and cause of death, especially at this time. But in many places, the challenge is the style of thinking. Civil registry, we had several good strategic plans in the last 5-6 years, but the strategic plans become the property or the reference for the civil registration agency only, yet they address the whole system. So we need to break that. And one way of doing that is to have an active steering committee or high-level coordinating committee. And of course, they need a good memorandum of understanding which brings them together. So I had posed a question earlier. I really want to know how Tanzania has reactivated. They had one MOU from before, and I think it must have been reactivated to come to this stage. Of course, I know when it comes to birds, UNICEF has played a very important and critical role here. So we need also development partners in this equation. My question is, in Tanzania, now we have the decentralized areas, which are doing well. Is there any statistics coming out of that area? That we shouldn't ignore vital statistics while we're focusing only on registration of birds. Thank you, and
Thank you very much, Jakob. Indeed, this is yet another question addressed to Lina. I'm sure that Rita, at least from my experience and exchange with officials of Rita, there is a processing capacity to generate different sorts of queries and get different sorts of statistics results on the progress of registration. Some of those statistics we could see also in the brief that is now officially published. But indeed, this highlights the issue of cooperation, because what we are seeing on the global level is that CRVS is not only important for vital statistics production, as this has been a traditional view. There is a sort of need for data sharing with health, so that if health provides to civil registration by donating health facilities as a notifications registration point, that there is a way to send the information back and share back something in return. And also in the context of legal identity, we see now that identity information in civil register is becoming the main legal identity information for the whole life cycle of a person. So Lina, maybe just a few comments from your end about sharing of these statistics data with the National Statistics Bureau of Tanzania, and in general, ongoing talks with other stakeholders within the government, how all can come together to benefit from the information that is now in digital format available for quite a proportion of population in Tanzania in the civil register.
Okay, thank you very much, Zoran. I'd like to thank Yakub. Yakub was with us at the very initial stages when we were doing the assessment. So he really helped us through with the assessment, and for sure, he is part of the success story that we're speaking today. Also, UNICEF has been a good player in assisting us in the rollout to all the decentralized regions. So I really like to commend their good job. Of course, we are doing decentralized with CDC, and Bloomberg also has chipped in. And of course, UNICEF is also the driver to all this. So I wish to commend all those people who have really assisted us in ensuring that we have become now champions. Now, in terms of statistics, we are collaborating with the National Bureau of Statistics of Tanzania. We are almost finalizing to have our annual statistic report coming out sometime this year. So we are collaborating with them in terms of showing them what is really happening on the ground, and they are advising us, because when they look at the data, they advise you, maybe you need to revise your form. We have done revision of our form, our birth form and our death registration form, so that to allow for them to get the statistics that they want, that is needed for the planning. So that collaboration is there. And okay, we are seeing success because it's not only Rita that does it. I've mentioned that the health facility, that is in the council level. So we have like 3 ministries which are operating together. If you don't have that kind of coordination, then you can't really manage. So you need all of them to be on board, all of them to understand exactly what you all want. So we have the ministry which deals with local governments. That's where you have the health facilities and the wards. And then you have the Ministry of Health, because we need them for registration and also for the MCCOD forms. So all of us, the coordination is really important, but then you need also to get in with what is on your ground and customize whatever you are doing, customize it according to your local context. So yes, we are using them in National Bureau of Statistics. We are on board with them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Once again, Lina, much obliged for your response. Jakub, if you still want to reflect, I still have you on the floor. We take the advantage of your extensive expertise. Feel free to add something.
Thank you, Zoran. Yeah, the point is that we're sharing experience, and I'm hoping there are several CR agencies participating. And these agencies have to learn from Tanzania on how to bring Ministry of Health on board. Ministry of Health is missing in many places. We talk of digitization as a game changer. That can be a game changer only when the Ministry of Health, which runs the health facilities, is on board. When the hospitals are ready to register deaths and cause of deaths. So statistics in many places is active, I know. In some places they resist. But at the very first stage, at the early stage of changing the CRVS landscape, the role of the CR agencies and the Ministry of Health is important. And this is my address to all African countries. Thank you.
Wonderful. Jakub, thank you very much. Before we move on to the next theme, which is one-step registration, as I mentioned earlier, I would kindly offer the floor to Annette to provide a brief comment and possibly raise some of the questions that we could further discuss. Annette, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Soren, and thank you very much, Lina. Jakub has now been speaking to, how important it is to include health and engage health. I'm wondering, is there any direct benefit from health in this process? Does health gain anything that can support their mandate? Maybe in terms of data, what was the convincing factor that made the health to come on board? And then I have another question is like, what has kind of inspired you? So you have taken kind of a little bit of a different approach. So we have covered 6 different notification civil registration system, and Tanzania stand out with the one-step approach. So I'm kind of wondering if you've been using the platform created by UNECA and other partners to find inspiration for your specific model. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annette. Obviously, this question is a nice transition into the next theme of this discussion, and that is unique approach of one-step process for registration and certification. And obviously, very important question. What currently Ministry of Health is getting back in terms of information from RITA, and if there are ongoing discussions about sharing data to a greater extent later on in the future. So Lina, if we can have your feedback yet again, would you be available to give us some feedback on that?
Okay, thank you, Zoran. Thank you, Annette, for the question on, to get the Ministry of Health on board, you need to have the political will, because ministries are with the they have politicians who are the ministers, so you need to bring them on board, make them understand the importance. So essentially, when you have the CRVS strategy, among the strategy is coordination and cooperation. And you have different levels of how you involve each other. There is the technical working group, there is a level where the CEOs meet, there is the layer of permanent secretaries and the layer of ministers. So each layer, if it is involved, then everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. So as I said, during the centralized mode, the health facilities were giving notification. So they were actually aware of what they were supposed to be doing. So during the decentralized, where you make it a one-step, one visit, instead of giving notification, they are just trained that now you're supposed to give a birth certificate. So you need to know it's the person who was born in your health facility who is supposed to be registered. And these are the sort of documents that we'll need. So it's the coordination that does not just come overnight. It's something that is built up upon from experience sharing, from making them sensitization. All this they build up on making people understand, and then you can easily get the commitment from the different ministries that can assist you in the registration process. Should I comment on one step, one visit?
Yes, that would be a good opportunity now that we are moving into that subject, because how do we get to that point? What prompted Tanzania to decide, okay, we have to make this more seamless, otherwise we are going to lose these people. They're still not going to come, and we are going to have to invest much more to bring people to register. But if we tell them you only have to come once, and then you will be registered, your child will be registered, and you will also get the certificate, and it's for free. And that was a magic key for quite a proportion of population. So what sort of led to that to introduce that idea, and whether you have experienced any concerns of possible fraud that you think might happen, that you could actually address in the design of the very process?
Okay, we designed one step, one visit because of the experience we have had with the notifications. You know, I think most countries, they experience the same. You see, a person will be living 80 kilometers from where the services are, but the health facility is just a 5 kilometer away. So it was only on a need basis that a person will travel all that far to come and collect a certificate. So one step, one visit was aimed at ensuring once a person comes in, they get the certificate. We did campaigns, we have done campaigns where you go to a certain locality and then you say, we are here to do registration. Because you have to take all the forms, scrutinize the people who are coming in, and then you produce the certificate. But it was taking forever for people to come in for the certificate. Some certificates will stay there for even 3 months without anybody coming in, because they expect when they come, that's when they can get it. But with this one step, one visit, once a person comes in and you are telling them you are getting it today, so they know that if they come, they don't need the cost of travel, they don't need the hotel. Maybe, for instance, a person can come in for the centralized. When a person comes in and then they find that the person who is supposed to give them certificate at a particular day maybe has fallen sick, so they have to come another day. So those kinds of setbacks, they were making people not come in for the certificate. So one step is aiming at ensuring that once you get a person, just use him right there and right then. Don't make him come twice and for the service. So that was the motivation behind us having a one step, one visa.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We have we are grateful to have Jakub back on the floor. Jakub, you might wish to comment on this particular policy. We would be happy to hear from you.
Excuse me, are you referring to the one-stop service?
Yes, correct.
Lina mentioned, put it clearly very well, and Tanzania is a typical example, the 80 kilometer. And it's not only the distance, it's the number of days. People come to the registration center and might spend a night or two. So there is also cost involved in terms of transport and other related issues. Besides, the issue becomes, to me, it's not for Tanzania also, it's also for other countries. Why should people travel that distance, incur so much cost, and it's felt like the government is doing them favor for coming all that distance, and the service is not up to the required stage. So one-stop service is ideal. It might not be applicable everywhere. In the urban centers also, you spend a lot of time waiting in the civil registration office. So the online application, the use of online approach also helps there. But what I want to say is, with the one-stop service, we need also to think of the demand. Demand has to increase for the one-stop service to be effective. And the demand can differ from countries to countries. But I don't want to go too much details on that, but demand is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we could have a whole webinar on the demand, generating demand. It's obviously these two come as a couple, the supply and demand as well. On one-stop shop, I wanted to offer my comments because I was studying carefully the system in Tanzania, but this is also something that is sort of being replicated across a range of countries, and that is that we have digitization as a game changer in the context of certification of vital events. Game changer in one context, and that is it is in starting from the fact that in the past, a child would receive a birth certificate, and apart from the original record somewhere in a remote registration office in the registration book, this would be the evidence that is mobile with a child that can be as proof of birth, and it can be proof of identity of that child. Now that the information is digitized and available at the central level, there is a new opportunity, and that is that you don't need to rely only on the physical form of the certificate. You can have your proof of registration of birth generated by looking directly into the database of registered vital events. And that sort of puts me into a next final phase of our discussions today, and that is use of digital services, online registration, as it has been introduced in Tanzania. We can discuss later on application process, but there is one aspect of it that is particularly important, and that is that registration can be verified from any location around Tanzania. So if somebody comes and shows whatever paper claiming that this is a birth certificate, which is issued as part of this one-stop process, if that presentation of that certificate generates particular value of service, the service provider can request with the RITA for this information to be verified. So it is not only one medium, this hard copy birth certificate that is only available. We can now look right into the database. And this is something that has been spread in quite a large proportion globally, and that is that the actual hard copy certificate is being recognized, but the authorities still prefer to go straight into the database to make sure that in fact that registration exists. So in essence, the legal value, apart from the hard copy, comes also from providing evidence that the record in the central register of civil register in the possession of RITA in Tanzania also carries that particular record. If there is a mismatch, if there is a paper certificate and there is no match in the database, then the questions can arise. Perhaps I could ask Lina briefly to comment on this, especially with the introduction of e-Huduma system, e-services system. How much requests have there been made for verification, and whether you have experienced situations where indeed people appear to be claiming that they have a register, but it couldn't be verified in the database.
Okay, thank you very much, Zoran. On e-Huduma, first, it was inspired by the loan. We have the students who apply for loan when they want to go to universities. So we used to receive requests from this the loan board on verification of the certificates that have been tendered to them. So sometimes you'll have like more than 50,000 certificates that need to be verified. And then it's a lot of work. So we thought to put in place a mechanism where the students themselves can do verification online. So a certain simple system was developed where the students could log in and scan their certificates and bring it to RITA through online, and then we will do verification and return the same to them. But then we thought we need to go a step further. That's when we came up with e-Huduma. We thought maybe we need to allow people to do registration online. And with the development of COVID-19, it wasn't easier for people to come in to subscribe for the service, although they needed the certificate. So the e-Huduma was developed to allow whoever was born in Tanzania, wherever they are, to do the application online and to choose their pickup point here in Tanzania, whichever place that is close to them. Of course, at the district offices, because this is where most of our services are. We have centralized to the health facilities for the first issue. This is for the newborns. But then for the late registration, you need to go back to the district so that they can verify, because like what Samuel has said, that people can do a lot of cheating and all that and bring in false information. So a person will do the e-Huduma wherever they are, even where you are, Zoran. You can, if you were born in Tanzania, you just make an application and then we will see it. So that was the spirit, to ensure that verification is done. But like you said, although a person may be registered, but it is the RITA register that can say that you are really born in Tanzania. You see, we are going back to Samuel. The way Samuel has said, you know, you can have people applying online, but they were actually not born in Tanzania. How will you know? So you need to do a bit of scrutinization. So there is register within us of the late, because for instance, if I was born in 1980 or 1982, most likely if I don't have a certificate, if now I come in, I say, okay, I was born maybe in Kilimanjaro, and then I tender in the required documents, most likely they will go back to the registers of 1980. They will look through and see, okay, sure, Lina was born maybe in 1990 at a place in Kilimanjaro. So whatever she's providing is true. So they will allow the district that they say it's a pickup point to allow that person to come, that Lina, you will be notified through the same system. You'll just log in, you'll look at the NSS, and the status will say that, Lina, you can come now to pick up your certificate at a certain place, come with your documents. So the person will come in with the documents. These documents are used because they will be kept for record purposes. Suppose Lina is 90 years old, and maybe the grandchildren, they want to know, okay, if their mother was really born in Tanzania, like they say, maybe the certificate is not sick. So they will go back to this document and they'll say, yes, Lina was born in Tanzania. These are all the information that were provided. So that specific registers lies with RITA. So verification is always done. Even the National Health Insurance, even the immigration, if somebody tender a birth certificate and wants a passport, they will come in, they will just log in, they will say, we want this so-and-so certificate to be verified. Insurance, because you know, people can even forge their death. Somebody can just forge a death certificate so that they can access an insurance. So these insurance people, they come in, they do verification, and we tell them, okay, this particular person is with us. So yeah, that's what we normally do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you can stay just briefly for a second, because obviously when we open the online opportunity to doing work online, all of a sudden new use cases, many new opportunities. I'm sure right now in RITA, there are people who are sitting around the table and saying, but could we do this? Could we do that? What prevents us from doing that? I'm sure there will be many opportunities in coming days and coming months to further elaborate on these practices. What I think is useful for this expert discussion is that we at least open the discussion then. COVID-19, however terrible the situation is, has been a sort of accelerator for these decisions. In essence, this online registration is a part of a response to enforce social distancing. The question is, would e-Huduma be operational so quickly if it wasn't for COVID? And I'm asking these questions because I'm seeing this across African continent, that some reforms that have been delayed and being put ahead for in 1 year's time, 2 years' time, because they provide such a great level of facilitation, they're being accelerated to provide quick response to this COVID situation crisis.
Okay, I would say, yeah, partly COVID has really accelerated. Maybe we would have lagged a bit behind because, we were concentrating on this age group of people who are going to universities, not necessarily there for registration, because now you have to look at the law. Sometimes you'll say, will the law allow, will this allow? So there's a lot of lagging behind that. So yeah, COVID-19 has really inspired us to move a bit quicker in terms of online registration.
Thank you, Lena. This has been an excellent conversation, and I really do appreciate your insights and excellent feedback. I think we all learned quite a bit today. Unfortunately, we are approaching towards the end of this webinar. I still see a request for comment, and I would offer last comment to Jakub, and afterwards we can move on to closing remarks. Jakub, would you like to briefly highlight some of your own observations?
Thank you, Zoran. This was really a great session, quite timely, and Lena has really been great in sharing the experience, the Tanzanian experience. The Tanzanian CRVS journey is close to my heart, so I was very much interested in that. But there is one issue Annette raised, and I want to say a few things quickly. The importance, what does health get out of the whole thing? Health gets vital statistics. They need to plan for births, hospitals, training, and everything. It's not only cause of death. So health needs CRVS as much as the others. So thank you very much. It was a great session.
Thank you very much, Jakub. Indeed, many issues have been opened up, and I understand that this is the first in the series of these technical discussions, that we will have other sessions. All those very pertinent issues that we opened up as a topic in today's discussions, we will continue in the follow-up discussions, expert discussions, but unfortunately our time is up for today, and therefore I would like to turn up to Annette for closing remarks, and for my part to thank you for your kind attention and express my hopes that all of these expert discussions over the past 1 hour and 2 hours in total have been useful for your daily work. Thank you very much. Annette, over to you.
Thank you very much, Soren. And let me just echo Soren and Jakub saying that this has really been an excellent dialogue. This is our first attempt to create a dialogue, and we will continue in the next couple of days. On Thursday, we're going to hear from Ghana about their contingency plan to ensure continuous birth registration and death registration in Ghana during this crisis. And on Friday, we're going to hear from Namibia about how valuable the national population registration, that includes both civil registration and the ID system, to distribute an emergency grant just as the country closed down in April. I think that it's been very interesting, Lena, to hear about your one-step model, and I'm sure it's going to be for inspiration for a lot of other countries that find it difficult to actually reach out to their population. I'm happy that we came to speak some about the administrative and legal safeguards that you have put into this process. I think it's something that many of us have thought, and it was raised very early in the conversation. One thing, of course, has also shown that your system has been resilient to weather this unprecedented this crisis that we're going through right now. And everybody can now, we have today published what has been documented from Tanzania, and you will now see how the statistics has actually been going up during 2020. So it's been very interesting, and it's definitely a system that is very resilient to emergencies because, as been said before, that health is an essential service and ongoing. So as long as people are coming into health facility, as long birth and death will be registered. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for engaging and for everybody who's participating. Thanks very much for Karen and Soren to moderate this session, and for William for the opening remarks. We will, of course, very much like to hear your opinion about this session. So if you can look in the messaging, it's called, on the comments, and find our form, and please give us some feedback so we can improve on this format in the future. So for that, yeah, that's what I've got to say. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us today. Bye.